on National Geographic.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. President Droupadi Murmu to hold talks with the President of Botswana, Duma Boko. Cheetah diplomacy, bilateral ties on the agenda. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and King of Bhutan inaugurate the 1,020 MW Punatsangchhu-II Hydroelectric Project. 4 trillion credit lines announced to fund energy projects in Bhutan. India's NIA takes over Delhi car blast case registered under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and Explosives Act. Delhi NCR on high alert. India reaffirms commitment to equity, climate justice and multilateralism at COP30, underlines that climate finance continues to be the key barrier to raise ambition, calls for equitable access to climate technologies. President Droupadi Murmu is on a 3-day visit to Botswana, where she will hold delegation-level talks with her counterpart, Duma Boko. The talks will be followed by signing or exchange of MOUs and press statements. The President will then visit the Diamond Trading Company for a briefing on the diamond sector. Traditionally, the trade between the two countries has been dominated by diamonds and gems. She will then deliver the address to the National Assembly of Botswana, followed by a visit to 3 Digosi Monument, the bronze sculpture in the capital city of Gaborone. The statues depict 3 Digosi or tribal chiefs who played important roles in Botswana's independence. The visit will be followed by a banquet. President Murmu's visit to the African country aims to further deepen the bilateral ties, focusing on cooperation in key areas such as health, education, agriculture, mining, trade and investment. DD India's correspondent Shabir Dar tells us more from Gaborone.
India and Botswana are set to take their mutual friendship and bilateral ties to new high as the Indian President begins her 3-day state visit to this southern African country. During her visit, the President Murmu will hold the delegation-level talks via several memoranda of understanding are being signed. Besides that, the President will address a special session of Botswana's General Assembly. After that, the President is going to be part of a significant event where the Botswana government will donate some 8 cheetahs to India, which reflects the shared vision of the both countries in the wildlife conservation. Besides that, the President will hold the bilateral talks with her counterpart, the President of Botswana and the Vice President. A special meeting with the Indian diaspora is also being organized. So in overall, the visit is very significant given the fact that India is expanding its reach in Africa and strengthening its ties with the African nations. With camera person Ramakant Sharma, Shabir Dar for DD India in Botswana.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the King of Bhutan, Drew Gyalpo, will jointly inaugurate Kala Chakra Wheel of Time Empowerment, part of the 16-day World Peace Prayer Festival, which began on 4th of November. Kala Chakra Empowerment symbolizes peace and the spiritual paradise of Shambhala, the mythical kingdom. The Bhutanese government is organizing the festival as part of a broader effort to promote global peace, compassion and spiritual harmony. The Prime Minister will then leave for India. Our correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh joins us from Thimpu. Shubhendu, good morning. Now, we've just given a broad outline of how the day is likely to progress when we talk of Prime Minister's engagements. Do you get us more details? Tell us about the itinerary of the Prime Minister today in Bhutan.
Good morning, Preeti. Well, this visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi always had very significant civilizational and spiritual tones as far as the bond between India and Bhutan is concerned. And today is a special day. We know that the Global Peace Prayer Festival is underway in Bhutan from 4th of November to the 19th. Where I'm standing, this is the Changling Stadium. That's where this festival is on. Hundreds and thousands of followers of Buddhism, peace advocates have gathered here. What makes the day special is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to be participating in the Global Peace Prayer Festival. A particular ceremony that he'll be part of is the initiation of the Kal Chakra ceremony. In spiritual terms, it talks about coming together of the concept of time, the concept of human existence, and the concept of the larger cosmos. So in that sense, the spiritual tradition, the shared tradition of Buddhism that India and Bhutan share, this is going to be a very, very special demonstration of that. Prime Minister would be participating in this prayer festival. Earlier, when the sacred relics of Lord Buddha were brought here from India, that made this particular visit of the Prime Minister extraordinary. People venerate those sacred relics by Lord Buddha. It adds to the celebration of the message of Buddhism, which is peace and harmony. Also, we saw yesterday that the two leaders had in fact invoked and expressed condolences and also sent out a message of solidarity for what happened in Delhi a couple of days back, the blast that happened, the tragedy and the victims. In that sense, the peace, the message of peace and harmony that is going to be sent out today by the leaders of India and Bhutan is going to be very, very significant.
All right, that was about today's engagements. But Shubhendu, to what extent would this visit by Prime Minister further strengthen the relationship between India and Bhutan? You talked of how this trip is significant given the way civilization and people-to-people ties will be strengthened. But when we talk of, the two leaders taking the relationship forward, what are the areas which will strengthen the relationship ahead?
Right, Preeti, if you reflect on the speeches of the leaders that were delivered yesterday, Prime Minister speaks about how connectivity leads to more opportunities and more prosperity. There is a very ambitious connectivity project that is underway. It will still take some 3-4 years to complete, but it's going to be a direct rail connectivity between India and Bhutan. That will really open up the world of opportunities for people in India as well as for people in Bhutan. That is one ambitious project that the two countries are working towards. We saw the inauguration of the hydroelectric, the P2 hydroelectric project by the leaders yesterday. That happens to be one of the largest hydropower projects in Bhutan. It is increasing, and the supply of electricity from the hydropower project to India, in fact, has commenced after the inauguration. It increases the power generation capacity of Bhutan by nearly 40%. So that's, and remember, hydropower and generation and its export, mostly to India, is the key source of revenue for Bhutan. So there is a 40% jump in that sense in the revenue that Bhutan would be earning. And for India, it would also mean a greater and more clearer source of sustainable clean energy. So we see that this win-win partnership already has achieved so many milestones, and the road ahead is going to be full of greater opportunities. I mentioned the connectivity, but there are also cooperation in health, in sustainable development, mental health in particular, that the countries are working towards. So in that sense, the road ahead looks bright with the close and enduring partnership that India and Bhutan share. Opportunities lie ahead for peoples of both the countries.
All right, Shubhendu, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those updates. An External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is visiting Canada today to participate in the G7 Foreign Ministers meet, on the sidelines of which he held bilateral meetings with his counterparts, including UK Foreign Secretary Hewitt Cooper. The leaders affirmed the India-UK Vision 2035 for further strengthening cooperation between New Delhi and London across the key sectors. Dr. S. Jaishankar also met his German counterpart, Johann Wadephul, in Niagara. The leaders discussed advancing strategic partnership and India-EU ties and also exchanged views on West Asia, Indo-Pacific and Afghanistan. He then met Foreign Minister of Brazil, Mauro Vieira. The leaders recognized the recent progress in bilateral cooperation and asserted that two sides are actively exploring opportunities for greater trade, investment, health and technology cooperation. Dr. S. Jaishankar also met his French counterpart, Jean-Noel Barrot. The leaders took stock of the strategic partnership and discussed deepening cooperation in multilateral and plurilateral formats. Dr. S. Jaishankar also caught up with South African Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola in Niagara. Besides, the External Affairs Minister also met his Mexican counterpart, Dr. Juan Ramon de la Fuente. The two leaders discussed further advancing our cooperation across business, trade, health and pharmaceuticals, and science and technology. The ministry added that the participants of the External Affairs Minister reflects India's continued commitment to working with international partners in addressing global challenges and bolstering the voice of the Global South in the international fora. India has slammed Pakistan for claiming that New Delhi had something to do with the Tuesday's blast outside a court in Islamabad. The Minister of External Affairs spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal in a statement said, and I quote him, India unequivocally rejects the baseless and unfounded allegations being made by an obviously derelict Pakistani leadership. It is predictable tactic by Pakistan to concoct the false narratives against India in order to deflect the attention of its own public from the ongoing military-inspired constitutional subversion and power grab unfolding within the country. The international community is well aware of the reality and will not be misled by Pakistan's desperate diversionary ploys. India and Cuba signed an MOU in Havana comprising of a treaty on mutual legal assistance in criminal matters and a protocol on cultural exchange and cooperation. The signing took place during a meeting between India's Minister of State for External Affairs and Textiles, Pabitra Margarita, and Gerardo Penalvera Portul, Cuba's acting Minister for Foreign Affairs. Pabitra Margarita is on an official visit to Cuba. Penalvera Portul emphasized on the priority of continuing to develop ongoing political dialogue and economic and trade cooperation with India. He also emphasized on the value of this cooperation and expressed gratitude for the solidarity offered by India following the hurricanes that struck the Cuban archipelago in recent years. You're watching DD India Newshour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, foreseeing a potential end to the shutdown, US Supreme Court extends the freeze on the SNAP food program in November. Iraqis voted in parliamentary elections on Tuesday in which Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani was seeking a second term. And we get two glimpses of France's oldest house, which dates back to 1091.
This week on Defense Dynamic, we decode why for India a unified rocket force is no longer an option but a strategic necessity, which Asian navies are redefining the undersea power balance in the Indian Ocean, and why Pakistan's Hangoor-class submarine may not be the game changer it's claimed to be. We break down India's engine dream as Defense Minister calls to build jet engines in India by Indians and on Indian soil. And in my take, how the Russia-Iran railway corridor is redrawing the map of Eurasian geopolitics. Catch the sharpest insights on power, posture and strategy this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Newshour. India on Tuesday reaffirmed its firm commitment to multilateralism and equity in global climate action at the opening plenary of the UNFCCC COP30 in Belém, Brazil. Delivering statements on behalf of the BASIC group, including Brazil, South Africa, India and China, and the like-minded developing countries group, India's speaker emphasized that Article 9.1 of the Paris Agreement places a binding responsibility on the developed countries to provide financial resources to the developing nations. It said that adaptation finance must be increased 15-fold to meet the needs of billions of vulnerable people who have contributed the least to global warming. India reminded the developed countries of their historical and ongoing responsibilities, urging them to reach net zero earlier, invest in negative emissions technologies, and meet their long-standing finance and technology commitments. Meanwhile, tensions flared at the COP30 summit in Belem as dozens of indigenous protesters forced their way into the venue. The group demanded stronger recognition of the indigenous rights in forest management. Chaos erupted outside the COP30 climate summit in Belem as indigenous protesters clashed with security personnel while attempting to enter the UN compound. The demonstrators, waving flags and carrying signs reading "Our land is not for sale," demanded access to the talks attended by global delegates. The protest was part of a larger march of hundreds rallying for land rights and environmental protection. Earlier this week, dozens of indigenous leaders arrived to join the summit, pressing for greater involvement in decisions on forest management. A prominent leader said that frustration is mounting over ongoing industrial and development projects threatening the Amazon's ecology. U.S. House of Representatives is expected to vote on Wednesday on a Senate-passed funding bill to reopen the government. The final legislation extends funding for most agencies until January 30th, while including 3 full-year funding bills for some parts of the government. House Republicans are confident that the package will clear the lower chamber. President Donald Trump is expected to sign it into a law. The Senate approved the deal on Monday night, and House Speaker Mike Johnson has said that he expects it to pass his chamber as well. Meanwhile, members of the House of Representatives headed back to Washington on Tuesday after a 53-day break, braving the congestion at the nation's tangled airports for a vote that could bring the longest U.S. government shutdown in history to a close. With nearly 1,200 flights cancelled on Tuesday due to the shutdown, lawmakers, including Republican Representatives Rick Crawford of Arkansas and Trent Kelly of Mississippi, said that they were carpooling to the Capitol, while Representative Derek Van Orden said that he was making the 16-hour drive from Wisconsin on his motorcycle. A U.S. aircraft carrier strike group, Gerald Ford, has moved into the Latin American region, escalating a military buildup that has deepened tensions with Venezuela. The arrival of the strike group, which was ordered to the region by President Trump last month, comes amid ongoing strikes against alleged drug boards and tensions with Venezuela. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has repeatedly alleged that the U.S. buildup is designed to drive him from power. The U.S. has so far carried out at least 19 strikes against boats in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. The Ford, which was commissioned in 2017, is the United States' newest aircraft carrier and the world's largest, with more than 5,000 sailors aboard. Venezuela's National Assembly approved a new law establishing an integral defense command of the nation on Tuesday. The legislation, which passed its second reading, was originally proposed by President Nicolas Maduro and Defense Minister Vladimir Pedrino Lopez, and had received unanimous approval in its first reading on October 10th. During the session, President Jorge Rodriguez accused the United States of military threats and attempting regime change to seize the country's natural resources, including oil, rare earths and precious minerals. The law, comprising 3 titles and 35 articles, establishes shared responsibility between the state and all Venezuelan citizens for defending against internal and external threats. Members of Venezuela's armed forces attended the session as special guests, witnessing the approval of the legislation. UN officials have warned that South Sudan's humanitarian crisis could reach catastrophic levels if international support wanes as violence and displacement surge across the country. UN Women Executive Director Sima Bahoz said that South Sudan's path to peace and development is beset by political instability and humanitarian crisis. She noted that more than 1.2 million people have crossed into the country from Sudan since 2023. UN peacekeeping chief Jean-Pierre Lacroix described the humanitarian situation as catastrophic, with 7.5 million people facing acute food insecurity and flooding displacing over a million. South Sudan's UN ambassador Cecilia Adot Mayok Adang defended recent government reforms and reaffirmed her government's commitment to the peace process and the permanent ceasefire. Vote counting began on Tuesday following the conclusion of the two-day in-country voting for the first phase of Egypt's parliamentary elections. Egypt concluded the first phase of voting in its parliamentary elections, which covered nearly half of the country's provinces. A total of 1,281 candidates competed in the first phase of the polls, whose results are expected to be announced on November 18th. The second phase of voting for Egyptians abroad will be held on November 21st and 22nd, and inside Egypt on November 24th and 25th, with the final results to be announced on December 2nd. Now, according to the National Elections Authority, Egypt, a country of 108 million, has about 69 million registered voters. Iraqis voted in parliamentary elections on Tuesday, in which Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani was seeking a second term. Polling closed with low turnout, marked by tight security and a boycott by major political bloc. Turnout in Iraq's sixth parliamentary election reached just over 23% as of midday. Preliminary results were due to be announced during the next 48 hours, with the final outcome expected next week. Sudan's bloc was forecast to win the most seats but fall short of a majority, potentially meaning months of post-election talks among the Shiite and Sunni Muslim as well as Kurdish parties. Efforts to form a workable Dutch government appeared deadlocked on Tuesday after a mediator appointed to bring parties together failed to suggest a group that would have a majority in parliament. 2 weeks after centrist Rob Jetten's D66 party won the election, he faces a complex task to build a coalition in the fragmented 150-seat parliament. The Dutch Electoral Council officially declared centrist Rob Jetten as the winner of last week's election. At 38 years old, he is now on course to become the country's youngest ever prime minister, as under the Dutch political system, no single party receives enough seats in parliament to govern alone. Wouter Koolmees, the scout named to solve this puzzle, suggested Jetten and CDA leader Henry Bottenbol, the closest pairing politically, first work together on policy issues. Hundreds protested on Tuesday against a plan to tear down a former army headquarters in the Serbian capital of Belgrade to make way for a luxury hotel complex, a project linked to US President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. The rally in the capital, Belgrade, added to a spate of anti-government protests, harrying President Alexander Vučić, triggered by the collapse a year ago of the railway station roof that killed 16 people. Earlier, Serbian lawmakers passed legislation that would allow faster administrative procedures for Kushner's Affinity Global Development firm to build a hotel, apartments, shops and offices on the site of the former Yugoslav army headquarters. Some opposition politicians argued that the legislation was unconstitutional, but the governing majority approved it without amendments, saying it was crucial for good ties with the US. A Sarmiento line train derailed on Tuesday in the Liniers area of Buenos Aires, Argentina, leaving multiple people injured and disrupting services for several hours. According to the emergency services, after the derailment, passengers were forced to evacuate the train and 9 of the injured were taken to hospital. While the city firefighters deployed 2 standard units, a special rescue team, a command post and a medical unit as a precaution. The cause of the derailment remains unclear. Malaysian and Thai authorities resumed their search on Tuesday for dozens of people missing at sea days after a migrant boat capsized near the Thai border. The death toll has risen to 27 as of Tuesday, with rescue teams continuing efforts to locate the remaining missing passengers. A survivor detained by Malaysian authorities recounted spending 8 days on a large boat before transferring to a smaller one with about 70 people that later capsized. He survived by holding on to debris for days before reaching a Malaysian island. Earlier on Monday, the regional director at Malaysia's Maritime Agency stated that 13 other survivors have been found in the Malaysian waters since Saturday. Tanzania's 13th parliament convened on Tuesday following a contentious general election that has fueled nationwide protests and raised concerns over democratic processes. The ruling Chamcha Mapinduzi party secured more than 90% of the parliamentary seats, cementing the dominance in the legislature. CCM's large majority has sparked public outrage and concern about its effects on democracy, debate, policymaking and checks and balances in Tanzania. The election period saw allegations of irregularities and violent demonstrations, with security forces accused of cracking down on opposition supporters. Rights groups have urged investigations into the arrests and conduct of the polls. An AI-generated country song has made history in the United States. Walk My Walk by Breaking Rust has become the first AI country track to top the Billboard digital sales chart. The song features a male voice created with artificial intelligence, though the artist has not confirmed using AI. Music experts say the visuals and sound clearly show AI involvement. The hit marks a new moment for the music industry as AI-made songs gain popularity on streaming platforms. Similar projects like Velvet Sundown and Xenamonet have also found chart success. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world now. In London, Labubu dolls flew off the shelves during a shopping live stream as Alibaba's AliExpress brought China's Singles Day shopping frenzy to Britain. Pop Mart's collectible Labubu, Crybaby and Skull Panda dolls sold in sealed blind boxes have become global sensations. Sales on Pop Mart's UK store surged 1,500% in October as the toys evolved into fashion accessories with a booming resale market. In Portugal, Lisbon's annual Web Summit, a dancing robot and a driving simulator drew crowds as global tech leaders discussed the startups and the future of AI. Amid global competition for advanced hardware and resources, developers showcased innovations that hint at a future where domestic robots could handle daily chores within a decade, according to a manufacturer. In the historic village of Cluny in southeastern France, researchers have identified the demeure de l'Apothicaire as the oldest dated house in the country. Using tree ring analysis, the Swiss scientists determined that its wooden beams were cut in 1091. The medieval home has sheltered around 50 generations, according to its current owner, a retired architect devoted to preserving its rich heritage and history. You're watching DD India News. I'll be heading for a short break, but after the break, we will get you a special report on all the latest on the political developments in Bihar ahead of the counting on 14th of November. We also get you glimpses from the first ever Mahanadi Boita Pratiyogita 2025 held in Odisha, celebrating the state's rich maritime heritage.
I have been a strong critic of British colonialism, but I don't personally believe that we can blame everything on the British anymore. Kerala, in 1957, elected a communist government, the first ever democratically elected communist government anywhere in the world.
Can the Kerala model be implemented in other Indian states as well?
Very good question to which I can't give you a simple answer.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News. A quick relook at the top stories now. President Droupadi Murmu to hold talks with President of Botswana, Duma Boko. Cheetah diplomacy, bilateral ties on the agenda. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and King of Bhutan inaugurate the 1020 Punatsangchhu-II Hydroelectric Project. 4 trillion credit lines announced to fund energy projects in Bhutan. India's National Investigation Agency takes over Delhi car blast case. Case registered under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and Explosives Act. Delhi NCR on high alert. India reaffirms commitment to equity, climate justice and multilateralism at COP30, underlines that climate finance continues to be the key barrier to raised ambition, calls for equitable access to climate technologies. New Delhi is on high alert after a car exploded near the Red Fort on Monday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has vowed to bring those responsible to justice. The National Investigation Agency has taken over the probe. The decision came after Home Minister Amit Shah reviewed the security situation in the national capital and other parts of the country. DD India gets you this report.
कल शाम दिल्ली में हुई भयावह घटना ने सभी के मन को व्यथित कर दिया है। मैं पीड़ित परिवारों का दुख समझता हूं। हमारी एजेंसियां इस षड्यंत्र की तह तक जाएगी। इसके पीछे के षड्यंत्रकारियों को बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। All those responsible will be brought to justice.
Prime Minister vowed strict actions against the conspirators of blast in Delhi, adding that the tragedy in Delhi has pained every Indian. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh echoed similar sentiments, saying that those responsible for the New Delhi blast will be brought to justice and won't be spared under any circumstances.
From this platform, I wish to assure my citizens that the country's leading investigative agencies are conducting a swift and thorough inquiry into the incident. The findings of the investigation will soon be made public. I want to formally assure the nation that those responsible for this tragedy will be brought to the justice and will not be spared under any circumstances.
Home Minister Amit Shah chaired a high-level security meeting attended by senior officials of the NIA, Intelligence Bureau and Delhi Police to review the ongoing investigation and assess the security situation in the capital. NIA has taken over investigation into the Delhi car blast case. An NIA team revisited the site on Tuesday morning to gather additional forensic evidence. The blast had occurred on Monday near the historic Red Fort in New Delhi.
क्राइम के ऊपर फॉरेंसिक साइंस की एफएसएल की टीम भी है, उसके अलावा और भी स्पेशलाइज्ड एजेंसीज की दिल्ली पुलिस की टीम भी है, एनएसजी की टीम भी है, जो पूरे सीन ऑफ क्राइम को यहाँ पे एग्जामिन कर रही हैं, आसपास के इलाके को भी एग्जामिन कर रही हैं और जो भी इसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए जरूरी एविडेंसेस और ट्रेसेस हैं वो सारे कलेक्ट किए जा रहे हैं।
Messages of condolence continue to pour in from across the world. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi expressed deep sorrow and voiced confidence that the investigation will uncover the truth. From Washington, the U.S. State Department's Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs extended heartfelt condolences, while from Maldives President Mohammad Mizu said his country stands in solidarity with the people and government of India. The ambassadors of the Russia, European Union, France, Egypt, Japan, The UK, Iran, and Argentina also expressed solidarity with the India during the tragic time. As investigations continue, the nation waits, united in grief but resolute. With inputs from Tapas Bhattacharya, Kriti Vadhera, and Jessica Taneja, Shruti Tripaঠি's report for DD India.
The Delhi government has announced compensation to the families of those killed and injured in the Delhi blast incident. Delhi's Chief Minister Rekha Gupta, in a social media post, informed that the families of those who lost their lives in this incident will be given an ex gratia of 1 million rupees. The Chief Minister also added that the permanently disabled individuals will receive 500,000 rupees and seriously injured people will be provided 200,000 rupees. The minister also said that the state government will take responsibility for proper and quality treatment of the injured. Meanwhile, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation has informed that in view of the security concerns, the entry and exit of Red Fort Metro Station will be closed till further order. The Red Fort in Delhi will also remain closed to visitors till Thursday following the blast to facilitate an ongoing investigation at the scene. The second and last phase of Bihar elections concluded with 68% votes cast till 5 p.m. Notably, the turnout in the first phase of election was 60.18%. On Tuesday, polling was held on 122 constituencies in 20 districts. 1,302 candidates were in the fray. Counting of votes will take place on 14th of November. India's Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar termed the just concluded Bihar Assembly polls as historic. He thanked the voters for the record turnout in the elections.
बिहार की विधानसभा के 2025 के चुनाव ऐतिहासिक रहे हैं। बिहार के मतदाताओं ने भी आज आजाद भारत में इतिहास रच दिया है। सर्वाधिक प्रतिशत वोटिंग की, जो कि लगभग 66.9% है। हमारी माताओं, बहुओं और बेटियों ने अभी तक का सबसे अधिक मतदान किया है 71%। बिहार के इन पारदर्शी और शांतिपूर्ण चुनावों ने पूरे भारत को राह दिखाई है।
And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. In Sivakasi, the Satchiyapuram Railway Overbridge has been inaugurated, bringing major relief to road users facing long traffic jams. The 850-meter bridge completed 3 months ahead of the schedule. The inauguration concluded with spectacular fireworks displayed that lit up the night sky. Udaipur will host the National Workshop on Agriculture and Livestock Entrepreneurship from November 11th to 13th. The event, organized by State Rajivika and Rural Development Ministry, aims to boost sustainable rural livelihoods and promote women-led agri-business models in the state. Odisha hosted the first ever Mahanadi Boita Pratiyogita 2025 in Cuttack. The event celebrated the state's rich maritime heritage with the fly boat race emerging as the main highlight and drawing huge public attention. In Jaisalmer, the Indian Army Southern Command conducted exercise Maru Jwala under the ongoing Tri-Services Drill Trishul. The exercise showcased joint coordination and operational readiness. Lieutenant General Dheeraj Seth led the operation. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Google to invest $6.4 billion in cloud infrastructure in Germany. India clinches 2 more silver medals at the Shooting World Cup Championship in Egypt. Hong Kong malls light up for Christmas.
Welcome to DD India, where a billion voices unite, connecting viewers to the stories that matter. India is not just another news channel. It's the international channel that puts the spotlight on the global south, bringing you stories from the heart of emerging economies, dynamic cultures, and transformative voices. As the international news channel of India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati, DD India delivers high-quality content from every corner of the globe, focusing on the stories that shape our future. We don't just report news. We connect you to India's voice in the global narrative. From current affairs to culture, from economic growth to sustainable development, and the ever-evolving world order, DD India gives you a comprehensive view of the world around us. Stay connected, stay informed, and embrace the stories that shape our lives. DD India, India's voice to the world.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Newshour. Let's take a look at business updates now. Alphabet's Google will invest $6.41 billion in Germany in the coming years in a push to expand its infrastructure and data center capacity in Europe's largest economy. The plan includes a new data center in Dietzenbach, close to Frankfurt, as well as the expansion of the US company's site in the city of Hanau, also in the central German state of Hesse. Google's head in Germany said the plan was likely to secure a total of 9,000 indirect jobs in the region. Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil said that Google's investment plan was a truly important signal for Germany as a business location, which follows a $1.2 billion AI partnership between Deutsche Telekom and NVIDIA announced last week. Germany has been trying to lure in investors and help boost its struggling economy, which has been subject to high costs and red tape. Updates on the stock market. Now, most of the Asian markets were trading higher on Wednesday, with Japan's Nikkei rising to 0.34%, Hong Kong's Hang Seng's advancing 1.07%, South Korea's Kospi up 1%, and China's Shanghai Composite gaining 0.4% as US Congress looked set to end the federal shutdown. Meanwhile, market participants are increasing bets on further easing from the Federal Reserve. Experts say the probability of a 25 basis point cut is high as at the US Central Bank's next meeting on December 10th. Fed, as expected, cut interest rates by 25 basis points on October 29th. While most of US stocks ended higher on Tuesday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average surged 1.2% to a new record high, eclipsing its previous peak set 2 weeks ago. In contrast, the Nasdaq Composite slipped 0.3% as NVIDIA extended its decline, with investors growing cautious that AI-driven stocks may be overvalued, and S&P 500 advanced 0.18%. The mastermind of a vast Ponzi scheme in China, which conned near 130,000 investors, was jailed in Britain on Tuesday in connection with one of the largest cryptocurrency seizures ever. Kian Simin was jailed for over 11 years for laundering the proceeds of the fraud into cryptocurrency, now worth billions of dollars. Kian pleaded guilty to 2 money laundering charges in September, following a probe in which British police confiscated over 61,000 bitcoins, now valued at nearly £5 billion. Kian ran an investment fraud through her Lanshan Gerul company from 2014 to 2017, into which around 128,000 people invested roughly $5.62 billion. This is about $6 billion of which was siphoned off. Over 80 people were convicted in China. British police first encountered her in 2018 after she tried to buy property in London and seized devices containing around 61 bitcoins. India and Sri Lanka have agreed to extend the framework for implementing high-impact community development projects in Sri Lanka through Indian grant assistance for another 5 years. The Memorandum of Understanding was signed in Colombo by India's High Commissioner Santosh Jha and Sri Lanka's Finance Secretary Dr. Harshana Suryaperuma. The framework supports small but high-impact projects aligned with Sri Lanka's development priorities, with each project capped at 600 million rupees and the total portfolio at 10 billion. Since 2005, over 50 projects have been completed, including the renovation of Durai Park Stadium in Jaffna and the Rabindranath Tagore Memorial Auditorium at Ruhuna University. Currently, 21 projects worth more than 7 billion rupees are under implementation, covering model villages, smart classrooms and health facilities, reflecting India's continued commitment to Sri Lanka's grassroots development. Let's talk of sports now. We'll first begin by talking of shooting. India clinched 2 more silver medals at the Shooting World Championship in Egypt. The pair of Samrat Rana and Isha Singh won silver medal in the 10 meters air pistol mixed team event in Cairo. The Indian duo topped the qualification round and set up a gold medal match against China. However, they had to settle for the second best in the medal match as they lost 16 points to 10. Meanwhile, Aishwarya Pratap Singh Tomar also claimed silver medal in the men's 50 meters rifle 3 positions event. Earlier in the day, he equalized the qualification world record, and the 2 medals took India's overall tally to 11, including 3 golds, 5 silvers and 3 bronze. Only China with 14 medals is ahead in the standings. Former Indian pacer Venkatayesh Prasad has declared his candidacy for the President of Karnataka State Cricket Association. Prasad unveiled the panel, dubbed Game Changers, and outlined their collective vision to restore Karnataka cricket to its glorious best through enhanced safety measures, infrastructure upgrades and also transparent administration. He was joined by cricket legends Anil Kumble and Arjuna awardee Javagal Srinath, who arrived to offer their support for his bid. In a pointed critique of the previous administration under Brijesh Patel, Prasad expressed frustration over what he termed a backseat driving syndrome, where undue external influences undermined the elected leadership.
Having played here, I think it's our responsibility to give it back to the association, give it back to the game, give it back to the youngsters, who are looking up to the legends of the game. We need to develop it and give more opportunities, bring more grounds into our fold, and organize the game in a structured way. That is what we are planning to do. And obviously, the most important thing is to get back the international matches.
Carlos Alcaraz battled to victory over Taylor Fritz at the ATP Finals as he moved 1 win away from securing the #1 ranking for the second time this year. The 5-time Grand Slam champion clinched a 6-7, 7-5, 6-3 victory over last year's runner-up Fritz in Turin. Alcaraz, who was replaced by rival Yannick Sinner as world #1 following the Paris Masters earlier this month, will finish 2025 at the top of the rankings if he beats home hope Lorenzo Musetti on Thursday. Sinner has to successfully defend his finals title to have any chance of ending the season as #1 for a second straight year. Meanwhile, Italy's Lorenzo Musetti beat Alex de Minaur 7-5, 3-6, 7-5 in a dramatic group stage encounter. 9th seed Musetti looked down and out with de Minaur serving for the match, but Musetti made a stunning comeback to seal the match. Portuguese superstar Cristiano Ronaldo on Tuesday said that next year's FIFA World Cup would be his last as he winds down one of the all-time great careers. The 40-year-old forward, with more than 950 club and international goals after making his debut as a teenager at Sporting in 2002, said that he would retire from football in 1 or 2 years to spend time with his family. If Ronaldo plays in the 2026 edition of the tournament, it would be his 6th appearance at the quadrennial event. The World Cup trophy is one major silverware missing from Ronaldo's coveted cabinet. Preparations for the 2026 Glasgow Commonwealth Games are picking up pace. As part of the build-up, the King's Baton Relay was unveiled in New Delhi on Tuesday. Sports Minister Mansukh Mandavia and British High Commissioner to India, Lindy Cameron, attended the event. The addition of the relay is unique because for the first time, each country will have its own baton, reflecting the civilizational and culture of the respective Commonwealth nations. The baton will travel through all 74 Commonwealth countries and territories, promoting hope, unity and collaboration. Notably, the baton carries a message from the head of the Commonwealth, which is read during the opening ceremony. The 2026 Commonwealth Games will be held at Glasgow in Scotland from 23rd of July to 2nd of August next year.
सारे देश में जाएगी ये संदेश लेके, फ्रेंडशिप का, इक्वलिटी का, स्पोर्ट्समैनशिप का। दोस्तों, देश बदल रहा है, देश आगे बढ़ रहा है, नया भारत बन रहा है। ये नया भारत बड़े स्पोर्ट्स टूर्नामेंट भी कर सकता है। ए न्यू इंडिया वर्ल्ड कप आयोजित भी करता है और वर्ल्ड कप जीतता भी है। ए न्यू इंडिया है। आने वाले दिनों में हम स्पोर्ट्स में बेस्ट परफॉर्मेंस करेंगे।
Lamine Yamal was released from Spain's squad ahead of their World Cup qualifiers against Georgia and Turkey after treatment for a groin injury. The 18-year-old Barcelona winger, who had missed 5 matches for his club due to the issue, had a radio frequency operation. Spain topped Group E with 12 points from 4 matches, scoring 15 goals and conceding none. They face Georgia on Saturday in Tbilisi before hosting Turkey on Tuesday in Seville. Spain will qualify for the finals if they defeat Georgia and Turkey. With Christmas more than a month away, malls in Hong Kong light up for Christmas with elaborate decorations, festive events and special light displays to attract shoppers during the holiday season. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
This week on Defense Dynamic, we